This is Boomer Life on CIL 650.
Will I grow up to be a man? Will I dig the same things that
Well, hello, and welcome to Boomer Life here on CIL 650. Nice to have you with us today as we welcome back our guests from Baptist Housing in Shannon Oaks in Vancouver and Victoria. Jillian Fullerton is Sales and Marketing Manager at Baptist Housing BC. Nice to see you again.
Great to be here, Sterling.
Happy Thanksgiving weekend to you.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
And also we're welcoming, I believe for the very first time, Kirsten Ellenberg, who is the Marketing Manager at Shannon Oaks in Vancouver and who has worked at Shannon Oaks in Victoria as well. Kirsten, hello.
Absolutely. Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's good to see you here. Tell us about, Jillian, you're the Marketing Manager for Baptist Housing.
Yes.
And Kirsten is the Marketing Manager for Shannon Oaks. So explain the connection between the two.
I'm marketing and sales for Baptist Housing. Excuse me. So I do all the advertising and TV, radio, anything like that, print. I will select all of that and also help Kirsten out if there's an overload, because often there is an overload.
Often there is, yeah.
And Baptist Housing, just before we get to Kirsten and her specific at Shannon Oaks, Baptist Housing is comprised in our province of how many communities?
16 communities.
Okay, and that's mostly here in the Lower Mainland, a few on Vancouver Island, and some up in the central Okanagan, right?
Yeah, quite a few actually in the central Okanagan.
Okay, in the Kelowna area. Okay,
that's
and you're
correct.
responsible for all of those properties.
Well, for all of the, how can I say, not the government-funded ones.
Okay.
Because we don't, they're filled. They don't need me. They're done.
Okay. So, Kirsten, tell us, first of all, how long have you been at Shannon Oaks in Vancouver?
I've been at Shannon Oaks in Vancouver for coming up on 2 years.
Okay.
And then I've been with Baptist Housing for coming up on 4 years. So I spent 2 years in Victoria and then 2 years in Vancouver. So 2 years in the marketing role at Shannon Oaks. So I have the pleasure of giving tours of Shannon Oaks and looking after all of our move-ins and helping all of our new residents get adjusted to their new home at Shannon Oaks.
Okay, and one of the other responsibilities that you, I'm sure, share with Jillian is dealing with us boomer people, the children of those people who might very well become the next residents at Shannon Oaks.
Absolutely.
So when we come, those children of your future residents come,
Yes.
trying desperately to get ourselves organized so we can pitch this idea, at least the concept, Mom and Dad, of moving into a seniors community, a retirement community. It's imperative that we, the boomer kids, by George, we better have our facts straight. So when we come to see you and take a look-see at Shannon Oaks, what are the kinds of questions boomer kids have for you, the marketing person?
So a lot of times, and you're absolutely right, boomer kids will come in and they're doing the legwork for Mom and Dad. They're
Yes.
sort of having a look at all of the different communities. They're coming in. A lot of times the boomer kids are coming in actually knowing, I mean, they've done their research online. They normally come in with a list of questions about what we offer and what this is all about.
Right.
So they start off with the basics, you know, are we including meals or housekeeping or recreation, entertainment, really the basic kinds of questions.
Right.
And then usually by the end of the tour, they're starting to get into the type of questions on, oh gosh, how am I going to take all of this back and start the conversation with Mom? Because a lot of times that conversation actually hasn't even been initiated.
True, yes.
So that's sort of the segue into that. Once we cover the basics, you know, we always offer advice on making sure that conversation is one of respect and that it's one of choice. I know Jillian talks about that a lot, but it really does have to be their choice. If they're not feeling that it is their choice, you're going to risk almost pushing them kind of the other way. So that is one of our biggest focuses, is just to make sure that they actually understand what the retirement community is and what it's all about. And a big piece of that is really breaking through this preconceived notion of what a senior's home is or what it used to be.
Right.
And really helping people to understand that, you know, the days of the nursing home, we have evolved and come so much farther than that. And this inclusive type of lifestyle is one of community and one of enrichment and is actually a very good thing.
Right.
And so it's really encouraging people, even just a first step, Mom, come on in and let's just try and have lunch. If nothing else, it's a free lunch. Let's just go on in and have a look.
Right.
If you can kind of get through the barrier to take that step and to get in, it really puts the conversation on an open playing field, and it really opens the door to actually continue that conversation about how this is going to work in your life.
Right.
It's a good way to uncover what is actually holding mom or dad back. So what are their fears? What is actually stopping them from
And in some
making
cases, the boomer kids aren't aware because, as you say, that conversation hasn't taken place yet.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Jillian, there are two sets of circumstances under which that conversation that Kirsten's talking about can take place. One, the boomer child or children do the homework. They come down for the tour. They arm themselves to the teeth with good information and ammunition, and they go back and pitch the idea to mom or dad. That's set of circumstances number one. The second set of circumstances, I would think, would be the much less desirable. Mom's had a fall, or now there's some kind of medical condition, there's some kind of urgency attached to the conversation that 2 weeks ago wasn't there, and all of a sudden now we have to accelerate this process because there's some urgent physical need. That's the less desirable of the two, isn't it?
It is definitely less desirable. You don't want to be in that position. You want to make the move before that happens. One of the things I think that Shannon Oaks does offer is a sense of security. So every resident has a personal health button.
Okay.
So no matter where they are in Shannon Oaks, they can even be walking around the block. They can be in our parking lot. They can be on our auditorium. Wherever they are, we know who they are, when they are. So if they do have a fall, there's somebody right there immediately, 24/7. We are all to have first aid training. We know how to respond, and we would sit with them until, if necessary, emergency people came. So that's a sense of peace and that you can really have a good sense about, because you're not worried about that mom's going to be alone in her house when she falls.
Absolutely.
Recently, I had a person come. Mom had fallen. She was in hospital, but she had been alone for 4 hours before she was discovered.
Oh my, okay.
And that's a horrible thought. You don't want to go there.
Right.
If mom had been at Shannon Oaks, mom would have been discovered immediately with her personal help button. You just need to press it. We're there.
Right, okay.
So it's a sad situation.
And Kirsten, one of the primary reasons I'm sure that you hear more frequently than others from the boomer kids doing the legwork, as you say, for mom and dad, is that peace of mind that comes with knowing that your parent, or parents, if you're really lucky, are safe. Not only are they in an environment that they're kind of having fun in, but from your perspective, they're safe.
And you're right. I mean, that is really an important part of the conversation as well when you're talking to mom and dad, is to let them know a part of this is for you to have some security as well, so that when you're at work all day, you're not worrying about mom and dad at home, or has there been an accident. So it's okay to let them know that that is something that does concern you and that does worry you. I think sometimes people I know I see a lot of families that don't want to let on to mom that side of the conversation. And I think it's okay to make sure that you do tell mom and dad that that is something that you're worrying about, so that they know that you share that burden with them as well. And that you are really coming alongside them to make this decision, although ultimately it is their decision, but that it does have impacts to you as well.
Right. Jillian, tell us a little bit more about Baptist Housing and Shannon Oaks specifically, in terms of the types of communities, because Baptist Housing, you said, has 16 different communities across the province, and they represent the full spectrum of living possibilities for seniors accommodation, right? You have
independent living.
Let's go through the categories
living,
here.
Shannon Oaks in Vancouver and Shannon Oaks, Victoria.
Okay.
With Leo Martin. They're all independent living. We have smaller independent living in the campus of care up in the central Okanagan. So you would have independent living, assisted living, and residential care.
Okay.
The assisted living is a little bit of more care in there. You get help with dressing, bathing. There are 6 prescribed services, and you can have 2 of them.
Okay.
And when you get 2 of them, there could be help with dressing, help with bathing, meals, whatever. That can be government funded, and most of them are government funded, 70% of your taxable income. But once you need 3, you are into residential.
Okay.
So the residential care is like a full hospital setting. It is more institutional. That is what independent living tries to step right away from.
Right.
Independent living is true to its name. It's independent. Our residents are independent. They can get, to and from. They have their own apartments. They have locked apartments. They have their own furniture. They have meals with friends. They invite family for meals. They have activities they do. It's a lifestyle change.
And Kirsten, all of these wonderful possibilities that Jillian is detailing here, you're talking about the perception that many seniors have to this very day about what a senior's retirement community must be like. And it's that, oh my gosh, my kids are going to put me in a home and throw away the key. And it is so far away from that. And that may be, I'm sure in some instances, a barrier to getting mom or dad, or again, if you're really lucky, both of them, to seriously consider this lifestyle option because of this horrible image they have in their mind, probably from their childhood, of what a home must be like or used to be like 75 years ago.
That's probably one of the hardest notions or one of the hardest barriers to break through. And if you haven't been out touring and if you're not working in the industry and you're not keeping up to date with how it has changed, that would be, you and I would share that same notion.
Sure.
And there's only one way to really overcome that, and that is to get out there and to start having a look and just to see. It's not going to take long to uncover that things have really changed. And the definition of independent living by today's standards is vastly different.
Yes.
Right. And Jillian, now you said we were talking about some of the three major categories that describe accommodations in a seniors retirement community. Independent living being what both Shannon Oaks, Vancouver, and Victoria are all about.
Yes.
But on the same plot of land in East Vancouver where we find Shannon Oaks, there's also a second level of care, and that's the assisted living you were talking
Clarendon
about.
Court. That's quite right, Sterling. Clarendon Court offers government-funded assisted living. They get the same meals, same sort of service that people in independent living get, but it's different because they have the care component in there.
Right.
And that is something that's very worthwhile for those that need it. There is also another thing I'd like to just mention. We talked about some of the people, the image of independent living and what it would be like.
Right.
People have the concept that's wrong.
Yes.
One of the major things I think both Kirsten and I talk about quite often is people's fear of leaving their home.
Yes.
And that is huge. That can't leave my home. I've lived here for 60 plus years. How can I begin to? I am not moving. I will not leave my home. Boots first. That's the only way I'm leaving.
And more than a few people, Kirsten, listening to that description of that response, this is Boomer Life on the radio here, and a lot of boomers like this program, and a lot of us have heard almost word for word that little response that Jillian just popped off the top of her head, only because you've heard it, 1,000 times already?
Many times. I'm sure Kirsten has as well.
It's sort of a daily, absolutely. I mean, it becomes the house itself and all of the personal belongings. You have to acknowledge that is a collection of somebody's life.
Absolutely.
And that's what they're facing when they look at that decision. So, when we compare it to the albatross that's really kind of tied around your neck, it's a hard decision, and you can't get past that without actually acknowledging that's what it is. It's recognizing that this collection of personal belongings and what you perceive as your life's collection is no longer serving you. It's actually causing you to become housebound and not able to get out of your house.
Right.
Great point.
You're often living in a house with stairs. You're eating one meal a day. It's difficult to get out and go grocery shopping. If you do make it out to go grocery shopping, it's getting to the grocery store. It's the physical act of shopping.
Right.
It's getting all those groceries back into the car and then lugging them home, getting them upstairs.
Car?
Right.
Well, getting them
Or
into
the cab,
or the cab,
or
or
Or the bus.
Or the
Or the
son-in-law's
bus.
car. Right.
Yeah.
By the time you've cooked that meal, sometimes you're not even feeling like the most common thing I hear is that by the time I've cooked that meal, I'm not
Not
even
particularly
hungry
anymore, yeah.
And even if you are, a lot of times you're sitting down to a meal by yourself, so you're not sharing that enjoyment of meal times anymore. So the house is it's no longer something that serves you. You're not even able to enjoy the memories and that are there.
Right. We need to take a break, but when we come back, we'll talk about this a whole lot more. But suffice it to say, Kirsten, that that attitude really, it plays to a cliche. in a strange way. The cliche that we all know is you can't take it with you. But if you're downsizing out of a house into a seniors community, you can take the good stuff with you.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And you can choose the stuff that you want to take, right?
Absolutely. We'll take a quick break here and come back with lots more. Our guests from Shannon Oaks in Vancouver and Victoria will tell you about the differences and how to find more information about both of them when we come back on Boomer Life.
Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.